On Elena's desk, there is a small notebook. The cover is red. She bought it in St. Petersburg a long time ago. She still uses it. Every new English word she learns, she writes it there. Today, the notebook is open, but she has not written anything yet. This is not her first day at the office. It is her 43rd, but something happened yesterday, and today feels like a first day again. Yesterday, Elena made a mistake, a small one, but it did not feel small. There was a meeting. Her manager asked her a question in front of everyone. Elena understood the question. She knew the answer, but the words did not come. She opened her mouth and then nothing. A long silence. Someone at the table looked at their phone. Someone else coughed. Elena said sorry and looked down. After the meeting, she walked to the bathroom and stood there for a moment. She did not cry. She just stood. Then she went back to her desk, put the red notebook in her bag, and did not open it for the rest of the day. That night, she thought about going back to Russia. Not seriously, just for a moment, just long enough to feel the thought and then let it go. The woman at the next desk is called Jane. She's American. She has worked at the office for 3 years. She's not Elena's closest friend. They eat lunch together sometimes. They talk about small things, but she's kind. She notices things. This morning, Jane puts a coffee on Elena's desk. She does not say anything at first. She just puts it there and sits down. Then, after a few minutes, she speaks. She says that yesterday was not easy. She says she saw what happened. She says it was okay. Elena does not answer right away. She looks at the coffee. Then she says thank you. Her voice is a little quiet. Jane says something else. She says it simply, without making it a big thing, that she used to be afraid of speaking in meetings too. Not in English class, just in rooms full of people. And that fear does not mean you are weak. It just means you care. Elena listens. She does not write anything in the red notebook, but she remembers. At lunch, Jane has an idea. Not a big idea, a very small one. She suggests that they practice together. 15 minutes, she says, every day. Not grammar exercises, not a textbook. Just talking about anything, a film, a meal, something that happened, small things, in simple English, every day. Elena is not sure. She says her English is not good enough. Jenny says that is exactly why they should do it. Elena says she will make mistakes. Jenny says good. Mistakes are the whole point. Elena looks at her for a moment. Then she takes out the red notebook. Okay, but slowly. Jane smiles and says, slowly. They start that afternoon, outside, with the last of the lunch hour. Jane asks Elena a simple question. She asks what Elena did last weekend. Elena thinks. She went to the beach. She walked for a long time. She found a small cafe and ordered coffee and sat outside and watched the water. She knows all of these in her head. In Russian, it is easy. In English, she has to build it slowly, like placing one stone at a time. She says, I go to the beach, I walk, and I find a small place for coffee. Jane does not correct her. She does not make a face. She just nods and asks, was the coffee good? Elena says yes, very good and strong. Jane laughs and says she likes strong coffee too. And just like that, they are talking, not perfectly, but talking. Elena makes 3 mistakes in 4 sentences. She uses the wrong tense. She forgets one word and uses her hands instead. She stops in the middle of one sentence and starts again. Jane follows her every time. She never looks at her phone. The next day, they practice again. Jane asks Elena to describe her apartment. Elena starts well. Then she reaches a word she does not know. The word for the thing above the stove. The thing that takes away the smoke when you cook. She stops. She feels the old feeling, the warm face, the small panic. She looks at Jane. I don't know this word. The thing above the stove. It takes the air. Jane thinks for a second. Then she says, a vent or a range hood? Elena repeats it quietly. Range hood. She writes it in the red notebook. Then she continues the sentence. She does not stop again. Later, Jane tells her something important. She says that asking for a word is not a mistake. It is a tool. Every time Elena asks, she gets something she will not forget. The words we need, the ones we reach for and cannot find. Those are the ones that stay. Elena writes that down too. Not the English, just the feeling of it. A small drawing of a light bulb next to the words range hood. The weeks pass. They practice every day, sometimes 15 minutes, sometimes just 5 between meetings, standing by the coffee machine. They talk about food, about films, about the difference between Florida winters and Russian winters. Janie teaches Elena 2 or 3 words a day, not from a list, but from real sentences, from things that come up in real conversation. Elena still makes mistakes. She always uses the wrong article a, and they confuse her, and she's not sure they will ever stop confusing her. But she speaks. She does not wait until the sentence is perfect. She lets it be imperfect and keeps going. One morning, there is another meeting. The same manager asks a question. This time, it is not directed at Elena, but Elena answers anyway. Not a long answer, just one sentence, clearly without rushing. Nobody looks at their phone. The manager nods. The meeting continues. After, Jenny looks at Elena across the room and says nothing. She just nods once. That is enough. Back at her desk, Elena opens the red notebook. Today, the page is almost full. There are words from the last 3 weeks. Range hood, strong coffee. I used to. It depends. Never mind. Each one is small. Each one came from a real moment. A question, a pause, a sentence she started and did not know how to finish. She's not fluent. She knows this. She still makes mistakes every day, but she's less afraid of the silence now because she has learned something that no classroom ever taught her, that the silence before a word is not a failure. It is just the moment before you try. She does not need to be perfect. She just needs to be brave enough to ask again. Outside, through the office window, the Florida sun is very bright. Elena looks at the red notebook, now almost full, and thinks she will need a new one soon. She already knows what color she wants. Red again. Always red. Hello everyone, I am Nadir. If you enjoyed today's story and learned some English with it, I would love to see you next video. Bye!